Welcome to Two Guys.
A girl
and an MBA.
thinking about other industries because, okay, IT, great, happy for them. But what about agriculture? As you said, potatoes and everything, eggs,
Yeah.
uh, textile, cotton production. Hey, why
Yeah.
why it should pay so much? It's a necessities.
And it's
We
kind
can
of,
survive without computers. I think about
yeah.
next generation iPhone, we can survive,
And,
but we cannot survive about potatoes,
and it's kind of
bread.
comical to put a huge tariff on China and then exempt electronics when who makes all the electronics that come into the US? China, right? I saw a story about Apple airlifting like all like six
Mhm.
something million tons or whatever of their phones out of India. What,
Hmm.
say more about that?
Well, I don't think it was any mystery that if you increase tariffs, eggs are going to cost more. I don't think that's why he reversed. I think I had to dig because it's even a little more complicated. It was the Treasury, the U.S. Treasuries for the first time had a massive sell-off, and that means the yield price went up.
Yeah.
And then when I dug in deeper, the country that owns the most U.S. Treasury, which is debt issued by the U.S. government to finance the U.S. government, is Japan. And Japan is an ally. Why would they sell US treasuries, right? Why would they sell it so fast? Because they got scared. And when I think his team saw that the US treasuries now were being sold cheaper, yields were going up, that is a first incredible red flag that the confidence in the US economy, as determined by the marketplace, interestingly enough, by a foreign country, was a serious problem. And I made up this quote. I usually sit around trying to figure up quotes, and I said like you only know your sins after you get to hell. And what I mean by that is you're poking at stuff like they always predict the 1939. Everybody can tell you what caused the crash, right? But they can tell you after the 2008. They knew what caused the crash. We studied it, right? But they're going to tell you after because logically, if you knew what caused it, you wouldn't let it happen. My point is there's so much intricacy. The first, I think, scare he got, he could handle egg prices and flour and potatoes. He could do that. The workers in America are buying that. Listen, he's doing it for us. But when your treasuries start to get hit and other people who own your debt are dumping it on the market at a crazy rate, Japan, who's like a benign ally, that is a red flag. And I think that's why he reversed course. There's lots of articles now that kind of support that. And it's not about pricing and all that. He would grin and bear it. But I think the treasuries was a huge deal.
Your research is interesting. It's reinforcing a point that was a theory I had earlier in the week. It was when the big buyers and sellers at like pension funds, countries, governments, institutional level investors, they get a whiff of economic uncertainty, they run for the hills if there's a catastrophe or a war, a pandemic, and they all start dumping their shares. In this case, you're talking about Japan dumping US treasuries, and it becomes this vicious cycle where it's a race to the bottom where other participants in the market see the price going down and they say, I want to get out before I see more value destruction. And it becomes this negative cycle race to the bottom. The other point, I think he has too many people on Wall Street in his ear that have too many vested, let's face it, interests in the markets crashing and them losing money or going up and making money. And I think he was probably feeling some bit of pressure personally from people whose portfolios of his friends that were
Hmm.
crashing, you know.
Yeah, his biggest supporter is Bill Ackman, right? Pershing Capital hates this. You see JP Morgan, all the major players, BlackRock, even BlackRock, Larry Fink was on. These are trillion-dollar managers. They match, and they are not for this type of broad tariff. Like really, tariffs, yes, they do work, but the way that like we always say, strategy is one thing, execution is a completely different thing. Execution was not flawless here. This was executed in a way that the markets, the people, sentiment, you see that this is not the way to do it.
90 days on hold, these tariffs. Yeah. That every day we have some changes. One day, 90% of tariffs. Second day, 125. Okay, on hold. Exception. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow it will be okay. Roll back. Everything roll back. Let's say as it is. That's it's like
I don't think it's rolling back, but I think
no.
I think they're playing with things. There's so many economies tied to other economies. from, let's say France, for example. France is tied to the EU, but France is also tied to African countries. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen that's going to spark this continuing like collapse of this house of cards. He can't predict other things. There's just too many other things. Here's a funny thing I thought was just incredible. He made up that funky math. And we live in a time where we have artificial intelligence that can process and quantum computing that can process trillions of pieces of data, right? Did anybody do any of that before they did this? Did they use an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, the way he kind of rolled it out lackadaisically, like,
Yeah.
well, here's the
Let's just
thing and the thing and the that and the, I think it's okay.
Yeah. Let's just get it going. Liberation Day. I mean, like, at basic Excel regression, I think we're beyond that. We have computer algorithms, AI, and quantum computing, where you could put in every single factor known to humankind, and then say, okay, well, maybe we should do this and that. No, here's a whiteboard, and I
I
mean,
think it was KI, it was Knucklehead Intelligence that crafted that plan.
oh wow, I just think not well thought out. Yeah, so we'll see how this unfolds this week.
Yeah, 50% of analytics and 50% of intuition. Like,
you're being
I feel
nice.
this way.
Yeah, you're giving intuition a low number. I think it's like you wake up and like, there's a number. Let's just do that.
Okay.
Let's just poke at that, right? Horrible stuff.
Please consider subscribing below.
Thank you for being with us. Please leave your comments, feedback, what you think about us, and see you in the next podcast. Bye.